Tarn was a quiet boy who lived in a small village called Noro. He worked on the fields with his uncle and helped carry water from the river. His life was simple. He did not dream of flying ships or glowing cities. He liked the sound of wind in. The trees and the way stars filled the sky at night. But one evening, the stars changed. A bright light shot across the sky. It came down like a slow-burning flame. Not fast like a star falling. It moved with grace and landed somewhere beyond the hills. The sky glowed for many minutes, and then it became quiet again. The people of Noro looked up in fear. They locked their doors and whispered stories. Old men spoke of the unbeaten blade. They said it came every 100 years and changed the world. They said only one person could touch it, and that person would carry great power. Some said it was a gift, others said it was a curse. Tarn listened but said nothing. He felt something inside him stir, like a hand touching his chest from far away. That night, he could not sleep. He walked outside and looked toward the hills. The sky still held a soft glow in that direction. The next morning, Tarn packed a small bag. He put some dry bread, a bottle of water, and a cloth to cover his head. He told his uncle he was going to find the light. His uncle laughed and told him not to go. But Tarn only smiled and walked away. He walked through forests and over small rivers. Birds flew past him, and strange sounds came from the trees. But Tarn was not afraid. He felt something calling him forward. 2 days later, he reached the hills. At the top, there was a sharp mountain, and smoke rose from its peak. The trees there were bent back as if wind had pushed them away. The air felt heavy. Each step Tarn took became harder, but he kept going. At the top of the mountain, he saw it. A sword stood tall in the ground. It was made of silver light, and its blade shimmered like water under the sun. The handle was shaped like wings, and soft energy moved around it like mist. No one else was there. The sword waited. Tarn stepped forward. The ground was cracked, and the stones under his feet were warm. He felt fear now, but also something else. Like the feeling before rain falls or a storm begins, he reached out his hand. The moment his fingers touched the handle, the sky lit up. A wave of golden light burst out in all directions. The wind roared. The clouds spun like circles. From cities to deserts, forests to oceans, every person on the planet felt it. Heads turned, eyes widened. The name of the boy was unknown to most, but his face appeared in dreams, in visions, in light. Tarn held the sword, but it did not feel heavy. It floated in his hand. It glowed brighter when he held it near his chest. It was warm, like the sun. On his back during a harvest day, he stood there, alone, but not lonely. Something inside the sword spoke to him, not in words, but in feelings. It showed him faces, voices, cries, and hopes. He did not understand it all, but he knew this. He was now connected to every life on the planet. Far away, in the great city of Ulven, the ruler sat up in his chair. His eyes were full of worry. He had waited many years for this moment. He wanted to be the one to hold the blade. He had prepared armies, machines, and maps. But now a boy from nowhere had taken it first. His name was Drex, and he was not happy. Across the world, leaders, soldiers, and traders all stopped what they were doing. Some wanted to find Tarn and follow him. Others wanted to stop him. A few wanted to take the sword for themselves. But Tarn did not know this. He only looked at the sky and felt the wind. The blade moved beside him, floating just above his shoulder. He turned and began to walk down the mountain. He did not know where to go, but the sword seemed to know the way. As he moved through the forest, animals watched him. None attacked. The trees swayed softly, and the air felt lighter. At night, he sat by a small fire. The sword glowed and gave him warmth. He looked at his hands and asked, "Why me?" There was no answer, but deep in his heart, he felt a whisper. Not a voice, just a thought. It said, "Because you did not ask for it." In the days that followed, people began searching for the boy with the blade. Ships flew above forests. Machines rolled through villages. Old maps were opened. Some believed he would bring peace. Others believed he would bring danger. But Tarn kept walking. Each step took him closer to a truth he did not yet know. He was no longer just a farmer's boy. He was the first to touch the unbeaten blade in 100 years. And the whole planet had turned its eyes to him. Tarn walked through the forest with the glowing blade floating beside him. The wind was quiet, and the birds sat still on branches. Even the animals could feel that something had changed. The trees no longer whispered as before. The air around Tarn felt calm but strange, like the world was holding its breath. He moved slowly, unsure of where to go. He had no map, no plan. He only followed the path his feet chose. The blade stayed close. It moved when he moved. It stopped when he stopped. It never touched the ground. By evening, Tarn reached a wide river. He sat by the water and watched the sky. The blade rested above the grass, glowing with soft white light. He pulled some bread from his bag and ate slowly. Every sound around him felt sharper now. Every step of a rabbit, every splash of a fish. He noticed everything. Far away, across mountains and oceans, many people were watching the same sky. In the city of Ulven, screens on tall buildings showed a blurry image of Tarn on the mountain. 1,000 voices spoke his name, some in hope, some in fear. In a round room at the top of a high tower, Drex stood in front of a screen. He stared at Tarn's face. His hands were tight behind his back. He wore a black coat with silver buttons, and his eyes were cold. So, a boy from a village, Drex said. A man beside him spoke. Yes, Supreme Leader. His name is Tarn. From the village of Noro. No family record. No training. No training, Drex repeated. His voice calm, yet the blade chose him. The man nodded slowly, then looked down. Drex turned away from the screen. He walked to a glass wall and looked out over his city. Cars moved below like ants. Drones flew in straight lines above. His world was clean, sharp, and under control. But now, it had tilted. Send watchers. Find him, Drex said. Before the people decide to follow him, back near the river, Tarn lay on his back and stared at the stars. He held the blade close. The sword hummed gently. Not loud, not soft, just enough to be heard. He wondered what would happen now. Would soldiers come? Would people try to take the blade? Would he be forced to run forever? He closed his eyes and tried to sleep, but dreams filled his head. He saw faces he did not know, cities he had never visited. He saw people laughing and crying. He saw hands reaching toward him, not to hurt, but to hold. He saw fire. He saw water rising. He saw light breaking the dark. When he woke, sweat covered his face. The blade glowed. Brighter now, as if it had felt his dreams, Tarn stood up and began walking again. He followed the river until it reached a small town. People there were already talking about him. Posters were on walls. News screens showed the words "The First Touch" in big letters. Everyone whispered. Some looked at him with wide eyes. Others hid from him. One man stepped forward. He wore a green jacket and had kind eyes. You are Tarn, he said. Tarn. Not a dot. The man bowed his head. I have food, a place to rest. Please come. Tarn followed him. The man's name was Gory. He lived in a small home made of stone. His wife brought warm soup and bread. They asked Tarn nothing. They only smiled and watched him with care. You did not ask for this, Gory said, but you still carry it well. Tarn looked at the blade. I don't know what to do. You don't need to know everything, Gory said. Just know yourself. That night, Tarn slept in a soft bed for the first time in many days. The blade floated near the window. It lit the room with silver light. The next morning, Tarn left before sunrise. He thanked Gory and his wife. They gave him more food and a warm scarf. As he walked through the town, people gathered. Some followed him. A child gave him a flower. An old woman touched his shoulder and whispered, "We believe in you." Tarn smiled but said nothing. In a high tower, Drex watched again. His face showed no anger, only thought. The people follow him already, he said, but they don't know what he is. A woman beside him asked, "What will you do?" Drex replied, "We show them what power really looks like." He pressed a button. Across the city, machines came to life, drones. flew faster. Lights turned red. Armored vehicles rolled into open spaces. Drex was preparing for something big. Back in the hills, Tarn sat by a tree. He looked at the sky and spoke softly. If the blade brought me here, then it must want something from me. He closed his eyes. The blade rose higher and began to spin slowly. A soft ring filled the air. Then, from the trees, a sound came. A voice. You should not be alone. Tarn opened his eyes. A woman stood near the tree line. She wore a long dark coat and had short hair. Her eyes were sharp but kind. I am Mira, she said. I know what the blade is, and I know what happens next. Tarn stood up slowly. Are you here to take it? No, she said. I'm here to help you stay alive. The blade glowed brighter. It did not fear Mira. She stepped closer. You have just touched the surface, Tarn. The real path begins now. There are old truths and old dangers. Tarn looked at her. Then he looked at the blade. I want to understand. Mira nodded. Then come with me. Before they find you, Tarn looked behind him. The forest was quiet, but he felt eyes watching. He followed Mira into the trees. The blade floated behind them. The world had seen the first touch now. It was about to see what came next. Tarn followed Mira through the forest. The trees were tall and close together. Leaves blocked the sunlight, but the unbeaten blade lit the path ahead. The blade floated above Tarn's right shoulder, calm and silent. Its light was steady, not too bright, not too dim. Mira walked quickly, and Tarn tried to match her pace. His legs were tired, but he didn't stop. They moved like shadows under the trees. Mira knew the way. She stepped over roots and between rocks without slowing. Tarn had many questions, but he stayed quiet. He felt the blade was listening, and he didn't want to speak carelessly. After a long walk, they reached a small cave hidden under hanging vines. Mira pushed them aside and stepped inside. Tarn followed. The air inside was cool and dry. There was a fire pit and some old chairs made of stone. A few books and metal tools were stacked in the corner. This is safe, Mira said. For now. Tarn sat down near the fire pit. He placed his bag on the floor and looked at Mira. Why are you helping me? Mira sat across from him. She pulled out a flask of water and handed it to him. I was trained by those who knew the blade, she said. They waited many years for the next one to touch it. Tarn drank slowly. Who were they? Guardians, she answered. Not warriors, not rulers, just people who wanted balance. They knew the blade would choose someone again, someone the world would follow. Tarn looked at the blade. It was floating beside him, quiet as ever. I'm not special, Tarn said. I was just there first. Mira smiled. That is why it chose you. Far away, in the great city of Olvin, Drex stood in his war room. Maps filled the walls. Dots of red light marked the places where the energy wave had been felt. All across the planet, people were talking about the boy with the blade. In schools, children asked about him. In markets, people told stories. Some said he could fly. Others said he could speak to animals. None of it was true, but no one could stop the stories. Tarn had become a name in every home. Drex watched news reports with cold eyes. He saw people placing candles near images of the boy. He saw towns raising white flags with a single sword drawn in the center. The world was changing, and Drex could not stop it with fear alone. Begin Project Greylight, he said. His generals looked at one another. One of them asked, Sir, are you sure? That program is not tested. I don't need it tested. Drex replied, I need results. Machines began to move deep underground. Workers unlocked old vaults. Metal giants powered by forgotten energy came to life. Drex wanted to control the planet through force, and now he was ready to show his strength. Back in the forest, Mira showed Tarn a map carved on stone. It was old and faded, but clear enough to follow. This is where the blade was found the first time. Mira said, a place called Star Hollow. The blade came from the sky and sank into the ground. No one could move it until a young girl touched it. What happened to her? Tarn asked. She brought peace for many years, Mira said. But when she died, the blade vanished. It waited another 100 years, Tarn ran his fingers along the map. And now it chose me, yes. Mira said, and you must decide what to do with it. Tarn looked up. Can I give it away? No, Mira said. The blade stays with the one it chooses, but you can choose how to use it. Tarn stood and walked outside. The forest was quiet. A cool wind moved through the leaves. He felt the blade close behind him. He thought about his home, his uncle, the simple life he had left behind. Now people were searching for him. Some wanted to follow. Some wanted to fight. He had not asked for this, but he could not turn away from it. Suddenly, a loud sound echoed through the trees. It was sharp, like metal cutting air. Mira rushed outside. What is that? Tarn asked. Drex's scouts. She said, they found us. From above, 3 small flying machines came through the trees. Their lights flashed red. One of them sent out a voice message. Surrender the blade. Come with us peacefully, or we will take action. Tarn stepped back. The blade floated in front of him. Its glow became brighter. The air around it shimmered. Mira shouted, don't fight unless you must. The machines moved closer. One of them aimed a small weapon. Without thinking, Tarn raised his hand. The blade moved fast. A line of white light shot out and struck the machine. It fell to the ground in pieces. The others backed away but stayed close. Tarn breathed heavily. He had not meant to attack, but the blade had responded to his fear. We need to go, Mira said. Now, they ran into the forest. The blade followed. The machines did not chase. But Tarn knew more would come. Drex was watching, and he would not stop now. By nightfall, Tarn and Mira reached an old building covered in vines. It was broken and quiet, but Mira said it was once a library. They entered and found a hidden room below the floor. Tarn sat on a stone bench, trying to calm his mind. I didn't mean to hurt it, Tarn said. The machine, the blade reacts to feeling, Mira said. It protects you, but you must learn to guide it, or it will guide you. Tarn looked at the blade. It floated close, but he felt its power more clearly now. It was strong. Too strong to be used without thought. I don't want to be a weapon, Tarn said. Then you must become a voice, Mira said. Outside, stars filled the sky, across the world. People were waiting. Some prayed, some prepared, some marched. All of them were looking in the same direction, toward the boy with the blade, toward Tarn. Tarn sat in the quiet room below the old library. Dust floated in the air. Broken bookshelves leaned against cracked walls. A small fire burned near the center, giving soft light and warmth. Mira sat across from him, sharpening a wooden staff. With a knife, the blade floated between them, glowing gently. It had not spoken, but Tarn could feel something different, as if it was waiting for him to ask the right questions. He looked at Mira. Why does the blade choose only one person? He asked. Mira stopped her work. She looked at Tarn for a moment before speaking. It chooses one, she said, because one voice can move hearts. 1,000 weapons may crush a city, but one honest voice can change the world. Tarn listened quietly. He touched the edge of the stone bench and looked down at his hands. I'm just a farmer, he said. I don't know anything about power or ruling. Mira stood and walked toward a wall. She brushed off old dust, and behind it was a carving. Tarn walked closer and saw the image. It showed people holding up hands, standing before a woman with a glowing sword. Above her head was a star. Round her feet were children, old people, and workers. This was Ellen, Mira said, the first bearer of the blade. She brought peace to the 5 cities. She ended a long war, not by force, but by speaking truth and standing tall. She never raised the blade in anger. That's why the blade stayed with her till the end. What happened after her? Tarn asked. When she passed away, the blade disappeared, Mira said. It always disappears when its bearer dies. It goes back to sleep. 100 years later, it comes again. Tarn looked at the carving again. He noticed something now. The woman's face was calm, but not proud. She looked tired, but strong. Are there others like her? He asked. There were 2 more after Ellen, Mira said. One brought balance to the floating isles. The other stopped the burning mines. but both paid a price. Power always asks for something in return. Tarn sat back down. I don't want to become something I don't understand, he said. Mira nodded. That is why you must learn before the world pushes you forward. Outside the library, rain began to fall. It hit the broken roof and dripped through small holes. The fire flickered but stayed alive. Mira brought out an old book from a hidden box. Its cover was cracked and faded. She opened it and showed torn pages filled with drawings of the blade, symbols, and notes. These are lessons from the ones before you, she said. Each one wrote what they learned. Not for power, for guidance. Tarn turned the pages slowly. Some drawings showed how the blade moved. Others showed its light healing the sick or clearing broken land. One page showed the blade lifting a great stone with no effort. He looked at Mira. It can heal? Yes, she said. It can harm. It can protect. It can heal. But only when the bearer's heart is clear. Tarn felt a chill run down his back. He remembered the drone he had struck. It had fallen like a stone, destroyed in seconds. I didn't mean to destroy that machine, he said. The blade knows fear, Mira said. It will protect you. But it is not for revenge or anger. You must learn to breathe, to think. Before you act, Tarn nodded. That night, Mira taught him how to feel the blade's presence. They sat in silence, eyes closed. Tarn felt the energy around him. It was like a breeze, soft but strong. He reached out with his mind, not his hands. The blade floated close. It circled him slowly. In that moment, he felt connected. Not just to the blade, but to something much bigger, like a river of thought and memory flowing through him. He felt pain, joy, hunger, hope, 1,000 feelings from people he had never met. He opened his eyes and gasped for air. It's too much, he said. Mira placed her hand on his shoulder. You are touching the heart of the planet, she said. It speaks through the blade. You must listen, but not drown. Tarn lay down on the floor and closed his eyes again. He did not try to feel anything now, just rested. The next day, Mira took him deeper into the ruins under the library. There were old halls made of stone. Walls showed carvings of battles, peace talks, and the blade shining over crowds. Tarn stopped at one image. It showed a large city in flames. The blade was in the center, alone. What is this? He asked. Mira looked at the wall and sighed. The third bearer, she said. He failed to listen. He used the blade in anger. He wanted to control, not protect. The blade shined for him, but its light turned cold. When he lost himself, the blade vanished and the city fell. Tarn stared at the picture. He felt the weight of its warning. What happened to him, no one knows. Mira said, some say the blade took him. Others say he walked into the sea and never came back. Tarn stood there for a long time. Then he turned to Mira. I want to learn. I want to use the blade only when it is right. I don't want to repeat their mistakes. Mira smiled. Then you are already ahead of the last one. Later that afternoon, Mira received a signal on a small device. She looked at it with concern. Drex has activated something, she said. Something old. Tarn stepped closer. What does that mean? He is building a machine army, she replied. He wants to control the people before they follow you. He will try to make them fear you, or crush them if they don't listen. Tarn looked at the blade. It began to glow again, stronger than before. We can't wait, Tarn said. We need to go where people need help. Before Drex does, Mira nodded. They packed quickly. Tarn held the blade close, not in fear, but with calm strength. He was no longer just a boy from Noro. He was the bearer of a power the world remembered every 100 years. The blade had chosen him. No, he had chosen the path. Tarn and Mira moved fast through the forest. The blade floated beside them like a quiet light. Trees rushed past as their steps grew quicker. The peaceful days were over. Tarn had seen the signs in Mira's eyes. Drex was moving now, the peaceful. Time would not last. They reached a village called Rel. It was small, with houses made of stone and wood. Smoke rose from cooking fires. People worked in the fields. But something was wrong. No children were playing. No music. The sky felt heavy. And the people looked worried. Mira stopped at the gate. This is where we start, she said. TARN nodded. They walked into the village. People stared at them. Some whispered. Others stepped back when they saw the glowing blade. An old man came forward. He wore a brown coat and leaned on a stick. You are the one from the mountain, the man said. I'm Tarn, he replied. I don't want power. I only want peace. The old man looked at the blade, then at Mira. Then you must know what happened here. Drex sent machines to nights ago. They took 10 of our people. No warning. No reason. Tarn felt the blade warm beside him. Its light grew stronger. The village gathered around. Some were silent. Some looked angry. Others looked scared. We don't have weapons, said a woman. We don't want war. You shouldn't have to fight, Tarn said. That is not your job. He looked at Mira. She gave a small nod. We'll help, Tarn said. That night, they stayed in Rel. Mira set up a watch near the village gate. Tarn sat by the fire with the villagers. They told stories of the machines. Tall metal men with red eyes. They came from the sky in dark ships. No one could stop them. They took the strong ones, a farmer said. Young men, even some women. They said they would return them. But we don't believe that. Tarn listened. His hands rested on his knees. The blade floated above the fire, glowing like a small moon. The people looked at it with hope. Some reached out to feel its warmth. Tarn said nothing, but he felt their trust. He felt their pain. In the sky, far above. Drex watched from his tower. His eyes were locked on a screen showing Rel. He could see the crowd, the blade, the boy. His face showed no smile. They believe in him, Drex said. But belief is not power. Behind him, machines stood ready. They were tall, made of steel, and filled with energy. Each one had a mark on its chest, a black circle with 3 lines. Send them in groups, Drex ordered. Let the people feel control. Let the boy see fear. Tarn woke early the next day. The sun had just touched the trees. Mira was waiting near the edge of the village. They're coming, she said. Tarn nodded. He walked to the center of the village. The people gathered around him. Children peeked from windows. The ground shook slightly. Then they came. 5 tall machines walked into view. Their metal legs made soft thudding sounds. Red lights blinked on their heads. They stopped outside the village and waited. One of them spoke in a deep, cold voice. Return the blade. The one who holds it must come. Tarn stepped forward. Why did you take the villagers' order? The machine said. Control must be kept. The blade breaks order. Tarn raised his hand. The blade moved beside him. Brighter than before. He looked back at the people. He saw their fear, their trust. I will not run, he said. If you want me, I'm here. The machine stepped forward. Its arm turned into a weapon, a light charged at the tip. But before it could fire, the blade moved. It shot forward like lightning. It struck the machine's chest, sending sparks into the air. The machine flew back and hit the ground. The other moved to attack. Tarn stood still. His eyes were calm. The blade spun around him, cutting through the air. One machine raised a shield, but the blade passed through it. Another fell as the blade struck its legs. Mira joined in. She used her staff to block a blow from one machine, then struck its center. Tarn moved quickly, the blade never touching his hands, yet always obeying his thoughts. Within minutes, the machines were silent and broken. The village cheered. People hugged each other. Children ran out of their homes. But Tarn stood quietly. He looked at the machines. Their eyes no longer glowed. He had stopped them, but he felt no joy. Mira walked to him. You didn't kill. You defended. I know, Tarn said. But more will come. Yes, she said. And we must be ready. That night, a fire was lit in the village square. Food was shared. Songs were sung for the first time in many weeks. Tarn sat near the edge, away from the light. The blade floated beside him. Its glow soft. Mira sat beside him. You've changed, she said. Tarn nodded. I had to. She looked at the people. They believe in you now. I don't want them to worship me. Tarn said, I want them to believe in themselves. Mira smiled. That is what makes you different. In the shadows beyond the fire, A figure watched. A young girl stepped out. Her eyes were wide. "My name is P," she said. "My brother was taken. Can you bring him back?" Tarn looked at her. He stood slowly. "I will try," he said. "I will try for all of them." He looked at Mira. She nodded. Then Tarn spoke to the crowd. "Drex wants fear. He wants silence. But I say we speak, not with weapons, with truth, with unity, with hope." The crowd listened. The firelight shone on their faces. "I will go where people need help," Tarn said. "But I need you too. Not to fight, to stand, to show the world we are not afraid." The people raised their hands. Tarn felt the blade glow warmer. Not for battle, for purpose. And somewhere high in his tower, Drex frowned. His machines had failed. His fear had not worked. The boy was not running, the boy was rising. The city of Olven was quiet in the early morning. Tall buildings rose like giants into the blue sky. Streets were empty except for the soft hum of machines waking. The air was cool, but tension filled the city like a storm waiting to break. Tarn and Mira stood on a hill outside the city. The blade floated beside Tarn, glowing with a soft light. They could see the walls of Olven, its towers reaching high. But behind those walls were soldiers and machines ready to fight. "We must be careful," Mira said. "Drex will not give up." Tarn looked at the city. "I don't want to fight," he said. "But I cannot run anymore." They moved down the hill and into the city streets. People watched from windows and doorways. Some looked hopeful. Some looked scared. Drex waited inside his great hall. He wore a suit of shining metal powered by old blade energy. His eyes were cold as he looked at Tarn and Mira entering the city. "You bring rebellion," Drex said. "You bring chaos." Tarn stepped forward, holding the blade close. "I bring choice," he said. "People should choose their own path." Drex laughed softly. "Choice is weakness. Control is strength." Suddenly, the room filled with light. Machines moved forward to surround Tarn and Mira. The city held its breath. The battle began. Tarn moved with the blade like it was part of him. The blade flashed bright white and blue. It cut through darkness and metal. He blocked attacks with quick movements. Mira fought with her staff, strong and fast. Drex moved in his metal suit. Power hummed through his body. He struck with heavy blows. Each hit shook the ground. But Tarn did not fall. The blade protected him. It seemed to glow stronger when he stood for what was right. Outside, people gathered. They did not fight, but they cheered. They watched the fight between control and freedom. Mira helped free people trapped inside cages. She broke locks and opened doors. People ran out with smiles and tears. Tarn and Drex met in the center of the great hall. The blade and the metal suit clashed. Sparks flew. The ground cracked beneath their feet. "Why does the blade choose a simple boy?" Drex asked, anger in his voice. "Because I did not want it," Tarn said. "Because I want peace, not power." The blade shone bright and struck Drex's suit. The metal cracked. Drex stumbled back. The city echoed with hope. Drex fell to his knees. "You are stronger than I thought," he said. Tarn helped him stand. "It is not strength alone." Tarn said, "It is the choice to be better." The machine stopped moving. The people stepped forward. They did not fear Tarn. They trusted him. Drex looked at the crowd. He saw their faces full of hope and courage. "I was wrong," he said softly. Tarn smiled. "We all can be." The blade's light softened. It floated beside Tarn like a gentle friend. The battle was over. Outside, the sun rose higher. The city began to heal. People spoke to each other. They shared stories and plans. Tarn stood on a balcony and looked over the city. He felt the weight of the blade, but it was not heavy. It was a reminder that true power is in the choice to protect and care. The sun rose slowly over the land. Light spilled into cities, forests, and fields. A soft breeze moved through the air. It carried the scent of fresh earth and new beginnings. Tarn stood at the edge of a hill, holding the unbeaten blade. Its light was calm now, gentle as a morning glow. The world had changed. The days of fear and war were behind. People talked of peace. They spoke of hope. They looked to Tarn not as a leader of power, but as a guide for all. Mira stood beside him. She smiled quietly. "The blade chose well," she said, "but it was you who made the difference." Tarn looked out over the valley. Villages and towns shone like small stars. People worked together, rebuilding what was lost. The fear of machines and control was fading. "Will the blade come again?" Tarn asked. Mira shook her head. "Not for another 100 years. It will rest until it is needed again. But it will always remember the choices made." Tarn held the blade close. "I hope we made the right ones." A young boy ran up to Tarn, holding a flower. "Thank you," he said simply. Tarn knelt and took the flower. "Thank you," he said. "We all have a part to play." The blade pulsed softly in his hand. It was not just a weapon, it was a symbol. A light to show the way when darkness comes. In the city, leaders met to talk. They spoke of new laws and fairness. They promised to listen to the people. The old ways of control were ending. A new time was beginning. And new challenges would come. Not everyone would agree. But now, people believed in choice. He thought of Drex, who had fallen but learned. Power without heart was empty, but power with heart could change the world. The stars came out as night fell. Tarn stood alone under the sky. The blade glowed softly in his hand. It was time to rest. But he knew the story was not over. It was only the start of a new chapter, a chapter of hope, of courage, and of unity. The blade had found its bearer, and the whole planet had turned to him.